hair and makeup, everything.
That's probably appropriate. The person who's there like a couple times a year, he's out of sorts all the time. Welcome to PTI. Tony couldn't make it to Thursday, so I am joined by our great friend who's always ready to roll, coming out of the pen, Mr. Frank Isola.
That's a Thursday cheer. No question about it.
It is.
No
it is.
question.
Well, you know, maybe you'll get better tomorrow. Let's start with tonight's game between the Cowboys and Giants. Both teams are 1-2, but the Giants are at least coming off a win, while the Cowboys are coming off consecutive losses. Earlier this week, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones stopped short of calling this a must-win for the boys, but Troy Aikman told us yesterday it's as close to a must-win as a Game 4 can get. Frank, what do you think?
I love the way you say Cowboys. That makes me laugh. It kind of feels like the first Bill Belichick bowl of the season between the Giants and the Cowboys. Clearly a must-win for both of them. Dallas always seems to beat the Giants. This almost goes back to the Troy Aikman era and even the Roger Staubach, Danny White era where the Giants can never win. But clearly for the Cowboys, they can't stop the run. Look what they did their last two home games, Mike. Down 19 at halftime, then down 15 just this past Sunday to Baltimore. And if you go back to what happened to them in the playoffs, they've gotten smoked 3 times at home. Now they have to go on the road.
They have.
Short week. And I'll say this about the Giants, because I know everyone focuses on the Cowboys, and rightfully so. But this could be a big moment for the Giants. Daniel Jones in primetime games is 1-12. Dak Prescott against the Giants. The Cowboys have won their last 12 times Dak Prescott has started. The Giants need a win. This is big for Brian Daboll. It's big for the quarterback, Daniel Jones. And guess what? The Giants did not play that poorly in that game against Washington. They should have beat them. And now you look at Washington, not a bad team. And the Giants' defensive line, which won the game in Cleveland, which, by the way, is the same place where Dallas, his only win came against Cleveland. I give the Giants a big-time chance. There's actually more pressure today, obviously, on the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, anybody should have a chance against the Cowboys, but I do think it helps the Cowboys, Frank, to be on the road. It helps them to get away from home, where even in Dallas, which is a long way from New York, they feel like booing if the Cowboys got down in that game, and they've been getting, as you outlined, crushed, just literally run over in the first quarter and the first few possessions of each of those 3 games you mentioned, Frank. So, yeah, I think most of the country, and I think, you know, the interest in the Cowboys, I think, is overrated, inflated by, yes, this network, which, you know, decides sometimes it's only going to talk about the Cowboys, even though people in a lot of places, like the place I am right now in the desert, don't give a damn about the Cowboys. But the Cowboys are going to get most of the attention going into this tonight and the pressure. But the Giants, as you said, they've got a lot of pressure themselves. It's inward, I believe. It's not as much national. There's not as many eyes prying with the Giants because people really don't think much of them in the first place. But there's pressure on Brian Daboll. There's 100%. No question about it. And Daniel Jones with that Monday night record, my goodness.
I know.
I mean, he just gets starched very often. They got a puncher's chance, Frank.
You know, it's amazing.
Got a puncher's chance.
You know, it's amazing. You look at the Cowboys. There's an amazing stat about them. You talk about how poor they've been against the run. When they line up, when they line up at least 8 guys in the box, they've given up 184 yards. Even when they're defending against the run, they can't stop anybody. So if the Giants can get the running game going, how much better will their all-world receiver, Malik Neighbors, be? But if Daniel Jones is in 3rd and long, you know who's going to have a big night? Micah Parsons in that same, not the same exact
field. Maybe Daniel Jones should be running.
He'll look like Lawrence Taylor tonight against them. The Giants need to run the ball. That's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, that analogy's wearing thin, by the way.
Well, it's close. All right, speaking of must-wins, the White Sox are suddenly spunky. The team that's 1 loss away from setting the all-time record won for the 3rd straight time this afternoon, sweeping the Angels in Chicago. They now finish the season with 3 in Detroit. And their manager, Grady Sizemore, moved Garrett Crochet to tomorrow night, Mike, explaining, we want to throw our best guy up against this team that's fighting for a playoff spot. These are our rivals. All right, Mike, what sort of accomplishment would this be if your other team in Chicago wins out?
I'm not about to use the word accomplishment, Frank. It's not. Even if you win out, and by the way, when they tied the record, I said then, there's no chance, which must have been going on Monday's show. I said, there's no chance they can win 6 straight games. They did win 4 straight games, the
Yeah.
White Sox did in
That's
May,
right.
and they won 3 straight games earlier in September. But with these 3 straight in Detroit, and by the way, this is how you close out a schedule. You close out against a division rival. That's what you should be doing, even when you don't know where they're going to be later. So, but the White Sox started today, and they won that game. They won 7-0 over the Angels. How about the Angels, by the way? Talk about rolling over. The Angels came into this game 24 games ahead of the White Sox, and they got starched, all right, by a pitcher, by the way.
Chris Flexen.
The team shutout. Flexen is 2-15 with an ERA of 5+, and the White Sox win that game. There's pride. Good for them. Golf clap. Maybe even louder than that for the White Sox for staying in this and having pride enough to play. Accomplishment. I'm sure somebody will come up with a record for teams that have lost 120 to win 4 straight. It's a record. It'll be, breaking news on an underline, but I'm not calling it that.
All right, number one, that record belongs to the New York Mets. That was an expansion team. It's unfair that a team like your Chicago White Sox, especially in the era of free agency, could be this bad. So it's disappointing that the 62 Mets, in a lot of ways, are being removed from the record book, because here's what's going to happen. The White Sox are going to lose one more game. The last time they won 6 in a row was in May of 2022. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I do have a crazy scenario. I'll give you one with all the weather things that we've been talking about. You get Crochet going tomorrow, then you get Burke on Saturday. Pray for rain on Sunday. Maybe you win 2 more games, and the last game of the season doesn't matter, and it gets rained out. That record,
and they don't play it.
I give them credit for playing this well and not wanting to lose 121.
I give them credit.
But it's a little hard. It also doesn't work with the White Sox. The lovable losers are the 62 Mets. The other baseball team in your town are lovable losers. It's not right if the White Sox have the record. It doesn't work that way.
Listen, when you lost 120 and maybe 123 in one season, whether you're lovable or not, you're a loser.
Well, you're a loser,
and you
but not
replace
lovable.
the Mets. And by the way, you know what? That would be kind of cool, because in Chicago, all of us can band together, South Side and North, to hate the damn Mets. That's how I roll
Detroit
personally.
is not losing
and I hope
to
there's
Chicago.
millions who will join
Not 3 in a row.
Millions.
No way.
National League wild card. That race has a big wrinkle thanks to Hurricane Helene. Speaking of rain, Frank. Baseball postponed yesterday's and today's games between the Mets and Braves, moving them to a Monday doubleheader, but only if necessary. And as of now, with the Diamondbacks winning last night, it will be necessary. As of now, Frank, where does this rescheduling leave the NL playoff race?
Yeah, it's absolute chaos. And, Mike, in our business, going back to our newspaper days, there's always a part of you that roots for chaos, and that's what you have here now. You could have a scenario where the Mets in Milwaukee, by the way, a stadium with a roof over it, just like they should do in Atlanta, just like a lot of these stadiums should have with the money these owners have. They could be in Milwaukee this weekend. They could go to Atlanta on Monday and then potentially end up, assuming they win, in San Diego for a Tuesday game. How about that for travel? And I'll give the Mets credit. Their manager, Carlos Mendoza, what can you do right now? You could be complaining about Major League Baseball. They should have figured this out. He's thinking, you know what? I can get our bullpen needs rest. Francisco Lindor, who's been out for a bunch of games, he gets extra days rest. So the Mets, believe it or not, in this scenario, instead of crying like I think a lot of people would have done, are approaching it the right way. So good for them, but it's going to be a little nutty. Remember, it could go Milwaukee, Atlanta, San Diego.
Yeah, Frank, I like that the movable chess piece here is Chris Sale.
Yeah.
Who apparently, won't pitch now until there's the possibility of an elimination game. Or if there's no elimination game for Atlanta, he can start game 1 of a playoff series. And that's sort of, talk about an ace. Isn't that the definition of an ace? A guy that you sort of hold at the ready to do your team's bidding in the most important game. And Sale, who's probably going to win the Cy Young Award in the National League, has certainly been that. He's been on more than one staff in his life. Maybe I thought you were going to say the last time the White Sox won 6 straight, Sale was a part of it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that long ago. But look, there is chaos. And by the way, let me go back to something you said that was insane. No baseball team should have a roof. None.
Retractable.
If you got to play all your games at night because it's cooler, what?
Retractable.
Comfortable.
Retractable.
This is sports, man. You don't, no retractable. No. None. open-air baseball stadiums.
We know the games are being played this weekend,
you know
Mike.
I'm not defending anything the Cheeseheads say.
Mike, if you don't have a retractable roof,
just like was done with Atlanta and the Mets.
Get the Weather Channel, like Major League Baseball, I believe, would have. Why didn't they play yesterday's game at 11 in the morning or noon? And get the game out of the way. Why'd they wait until night to call the game? And obviously tonight's game is called too. They at least could have done that and gotten one of the games out of the way, right?
Yeah, let's just hope, the storm is not too deadly. Why don't we take a moment to do that?
Sounds like guys
and take a break. But coming up, number 1 Georgia is at number 4 Alabama Saturday. We're going to ask Booger McFarland which team has been playing better.
We'll also ask him about Deion's thought that it might be easier for Travis Hunter to play both ways in the pros. And by the way, folks, people that stay in luxury suites like Michael Wilbon, they don't want the rest of us, the normal people.
It's time to talk football with our great friend, ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst, Booger McFarland. And Booger, we're going to start with college football and this latest game of the century between Georgia, number 1, of course, and Alabama, 4th ranked right now. Who's impressed you most so far from what you've seen?
Well, it's got to be Alabama, right? Like, Georgia and Kirby Smart are kind of a well-oiled machine. Like, they don't really lose unless it's to Alabama. But when you look at the Crimson Tide, you're replacing Nick Saban and everything that he has on his resume, 7 national championships. And all Kalen DeBoer has done is come in and kind of keep the status quo. And you say, Booger, what's so impressive about the status quo? Well, the status quo was what Nick Saban built. Not only has he kept the train moving, but he's added a little exuberance to it. People talk about it. It's a lot of fun at practice now. There's laughing. There's music being played. We all know when Nick Saban was there, he was kind of a hard ass. Well, guess what? Kalen DeBoer can get the same point across, but he's doing it a different way. And I think everybody there is enjoying the atmosphere. But more importantly, they're still enjoying winning. So I think it's been more impressive what Kalen DeBoer has done. And although Kirby is still Kirby, there's something new in the water in Tuscaloosa.
All right, Booger, you mentioned the head coach. If Alabama were to win, I'm not saying he's going to get a statue like Bear Bryant or Nick Saban, but what does it mean to Kalen DeBoer if he wins this game on Saturday?
Well, Frank, it means his way works. Oftentimes when you're following the man, there's a lot of scrutiny. And Kalen DeBoer came in and he was going to be scrutinized with whatever he did following Nick Saban. And as I said, he's doing things his way. He's not trying to be Saban. The field is named after Saban that he plays on, but he's doing things his own way. And I think a win against Georgia to continue the Tide's dominance of the Georgia Bulldogs just means, guess what? To steal an old country saying from a buddy of mine, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think if you're Kalen DeBoer, you know that your way works. And for him, I think at the end of the day, he's going to do it his way. And it would be good for Alabama to see a new way work, not just the Saban way, but the DeBoer way.
All right, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about Colorado and Travis Hunter. He's been incredible on both sides of the football. Deion has talked about he could do both in the NFL. There's more time between snaps. Do you agree? You would know this as well as anybody. Can Travis Hunter, you think, in the NFL, play both sides?
He can play both sides, Frank. I just don't know if he can do both as a major. Sometimes you go to college, you have a major and a minor. The major is the thing that you focus on, and the minor, you kind of dibble and dab with it. Travis Hunter could major in one of those positions. I just don't think he can major in two. I came into this season thinking he was going to be a better corner than wide receiver. But so far, he's proven me wrong. I think he's a better receiver than corner. And Deion would probably know better than anybody. Man, that's kind of disrespectful to these professional guys to say you can come in and do both at a high level. I think that would be a target on his back. And I think some professional guys will probably be taken aback a little bit by a young guy coming in saying he can do my job and he can go do your job at the highest level. So he's a phenomenal player. I think he's going to be a top 2 or 3 pick. But I think for him to say he can come in and major at both right away is probably a bit too much.
So fascinating, Booger, just to talk about it. I'm going to give a thumbs up nod to my man Roy Green, who's lurking back here behind the golf course, who played both and made the Pro Bowl in both sides of the ball, receiver and corner.
Wow.
All right. That's a perfect segue to go to the NFL. We've paid a lot of attention to Justin Fields and the Steelers offense, But that defense is ranked first in the league in both fewest points and yards. You know about great defense. Does the Steeler defense look great to you?
Not only do they look great, Mike, they are great. And it's amazing how the system can take the great pieces and make them even better. I think this system could make you and Frank even all-pro players maybe 20 years ago. But if you look at T.J. Watt, you look at Minka Fitzpatrick, you look at Cam Hayward, they got great players on all different levels. And the scheme, that Steeler defense, and I think the intangible of all the pride that they play with, because you go back years in the past when there was Jack Lambert and Joe Green and all the Steeler greats that have played. When you walk in that building and you put the black and gold on, there's a standard. And you hear Mike Tomlin talk about it all the time. The standard is the standard. And that's how they play. This is truly a really good defense, borderline great. You only become great when you can hold up some hardware at the end of the season. So let's see if this Steeler defense, led by T.J. Watt and then Justin Fields on the other side, can get this Steeler team to the promised land.
It's fun to watch so far, Booger. Thank you for joining us. We
Booger.
appreciate it.
Anytime, fellas. Always enjoy. Frank, glad you're moonlighting for Tony, Frank.
Every once in a while, Booger. When they'll have me.
We're going to take one last break, but still to come. Here's a name, Frank. Zion Williamson, of course, including the unbeaten team of 1967. The two later won an NBA title together with the 71 Milwaukee Bucks, a team that also featured Hall of Famers Oscar Robertson and Bobby Dandridge. Last year, Allen told the Los Angeles News-Observer he is still, Frank, in his playing weight.
Underrated player. How about the news of a guy that he just missed by 1 year? Junior Bridgman became a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. It's not like he left the NBA with a ton of money. He opened up like 100 Wendy's and Chili's, made a small fortune, and he bought into the NBA. It's a great story.
Great news about Junior Bridgman, one of the great guys in NBA history. Happy anniversary, Prairie View A&M. On this day 26 years ago, the Panthers snapped a record 80-game losing streak, 80, with a 14-12 win over Langston. This was in 1998, and at the time, Prairie View had not won a game since 1989. During that stretch, the Panthers were outscored by nearly 2,800 points. In fact, in 1991, they allowed 56 points per game while scoring a grand total of 48. After ending the futility by beating Langston, then head coach Greg Johnson said, quote, "It was well overdue."
I remember how big of a story this was for all the wrong reasons, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. But what was Northwestern's losing streak once upon a time?
Too long. 30-something, 35. I was there.
I still want to get into that luxury suite.
Happy trails, Derrick Rose. This is very bittersweet for me and lots of us. The youngest MVP in NBA history announced on social media that he's retiring at 35 years old after 16 seasons in.
Could Caitlin Clark become the all-time leading scorer in WNBA history? After an incredible rookie season, many are wondering how long it might take her to break some of the league's most coveted records. Although Clark's debut season came to an end in the first round of the 2024 WNBA playoffs when the Indiana Fever was eliminated by the Connecticut Sun, she has already set herself on a path toward a legendary career in basketball. Just months after becoming the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history, Clark shattered multiple WNBA records for rookies, including most points in a season, most assists in a season, and the single-season rookie record for three-pointers made, among others. Given this stellar start, it's not far-fetched to believe that Clark could eventually dominate career statistics like points, assists, and three-pointers. But how long would it take for her to achieve these milestones? Can Caitlin Clark break the WNBA career points record? In 2024, Clark averaged 19.2 points per game, playing in all 40 regular season games and totaling 769 points in her debut. The all-time points leader, Diana Taurasi, currently holds 10,646 points and has played 20 seasons in the league. As of now, Taurasi has not confirmed if she will return for another season or retire. If Taurasi were to retire, Clark would need 9,878 points to break the record. If she maintains her current scoring pace of 19.2 points per game and plays every game in a 40-game season, she could become the all-time leading scorer in her 14th season, which would be in 2037. Of course, staying healthy is crucial. Injuries could significantly delay her pursuit of this record. If she can boost her scoring average while remaining injury-free, she might achieve this milestone even sooner. Can Caitlin Clark break the WNBA career assists record? In 2024, Clark averaged 8.4 assists per game, totaling 337 assists, a new WNBA season record. The current career assists leader is Sue Bird, with 3,234 assists. If Clark continues at her current pace, playing all games and assuming the WNBA remains at 40 regular season games, she could become the all-time assists leader in her 10th season, which would be in 2033. However, it's worth noting that another player, Courtney Vandersloot of the New York Liberty, is also on track to break Bird's record. Vandersloot is just 385 assists away from the record and is projected to surpass it in 2026 if she continues her current performance. Can Caitlin Clark break the WNBA career three-point record? In 2024, Clark averaged 3.1 three-pointers per game, making 122 shots from beyond the arc, the highest in the WNBA for the season. The career three-point record also belongs to Taurasi, who has 1,447 three-pointers. If Taurasi retires and Clark maintains her current shooting pace, playing every game in a 40-game season, she could break this record in her 12th season, or by 2035. With her talent and determination, Caitlin Clark is on the brink of making history. The journey ahead is full of potential, and fans are eagerly watching to see just how far she can go. Caitlin Clark envisions a bright future for Indiana. Although the Indiana Fever faced a swift exit from the 2024 WNBA playoffs after a two-game series loss to the Connecticut Sun, Clark remains hopeful and energized about what lies ahead for the franchise. Reflecting on her rookie season and the progress the Fever made, Clark emphasized the positives despite the playoff disappointment. "This is just a glimpse of what this organization can achieve," she stated. "We have plenty of reasons to keep our heads held high. Just 2 years ago, this team only won 5 games. We're young and still finding our way, but we've bonded and truly enjoyed playing together." Early in the season, the Fever struggled, staggering to a record of 1-8. However, they turned things around, showcasing some of their best basketball following the All-Star break and the Olympics. Clark, increasingly acclimated to the WNBA competition, expressed pride in her team's resilience during this turnaround. "It's tough when you feel like you're playing your best basketball, and then it has to come to an end. But I'm proud of this group. They stayed resilient all year and had so much fun together," she added. With the spotlight constantly on her, Clark averaged 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game in her debut season. There's a solid foundation to build upon in Indiana, and Clark signaled that the future is indeed bright, as long as they continue on their current trajectory and grow as a cohesive unit. Rebecca Lobo has strong words for Caitlin Clark following the announcement from ESPN. On Wednesday, Caitlin Clark's impressive rookie season came to an end as the Connecticut Sun defeated the Indiana Fever 87-81 in Game 2 of the WNBA playoffs. The game was aired on ESPN, and less than 24 hours later, the sports network made a significant announcement regarding viewership. According to ESPN PR on X, Game 2 between the Fever and Sun became the most-watched WNBA game of all time, averaging 2.5 million viewers and peaking at 3.4 million. This record prompted ESPN analyst Rebecca Lobo to share her thoughts on Clark's remarkable impact on the league. "Just like in college, Caitlin Clark is a singular force when it comes to driving viewership and ticket sales," Lobo tweeted. "The WNBA is finally shining in front of millions. I couldn't be more thrilled for these women." This milestone follows closely after Game 1 between the Fever and Sun became the most-watched WNBA playoff game on ESPN. Breaking such records is becoming a hallmark for both Clark and the Fever. Since her arrival in April, she has consistently shattered viewership and attendance records at every level. On the court, Clark has set multiple records, including the most assists in a season, the highest points scored by a rookie, and the most assists in a single game. Notably, she's the only rookie in league history to record a triple-double, doing it twice, no less. After a stellar 4 years with the Yukon Huskies, Lobo entered the WNBA in its inaugural season in 1997, playing 7 years primarily with the New York Liberty, where she earned All-Star honors and was named to the second All-WNBA team. Lobo was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2017, solidifying her legacy in the sport. Caitlin Clark is not just making waves, she's redefining the landscape of women's basketball. The future looks incredibly promising, and fans can't wait to see what she accomplishes next.